Well, ladies and gentlemen, something just snapped in Washington, and Senator Mark Kelly, he knows it. For weeks, Kelly laughed this off. He mocked it. He called it political theater. He went on these different podcasts, brushing it along, brushing it aside, and acting like the Pentagon review has nothing more than noise that would fade away. But then something changed, and you could see it in his face. Like now, the joke stopped, the confidence vanished, and the panic actually set in, because this is no longer a headline. It's no longer media spin. This is no longer something that Kelly can control. The Pentagon didn't back down. They escalated. Secretary of Defense Pete Hegseth didn't wave it off. He pushed it forward. And President Donald J. Trump made it crystal clear: when politicians start messing with the chain of command, the military responds. This all traces back to one viral video. This was a moment that Kelly thought would just go ahead and score some political points, but instead it detonated, because when a retired Navy captain tells active duty troops to question their orders without citing a single illegal command, that's not protest. That's not speech. That's playing with fire. Now, here's the part that no one in the media wants to say out loud. Once the military takes over, politics stops mattering. The Pentagon doesn't care about your Senate seat. It doesn't care about your narrative. It cares about discipline, order, and consequences. And right now, Mark Kelly is realizing, far too late, mind you, that this just turned very, very real. Now, if this is your first time here, I've noticed that our stats show that only about 15% of our viewers are subscribed. So make sure you subscribe. I'd love to have you a part of our community here. Now, for weeks, Mark Kelly treated this like a joke. He went on friendly podcasts, brushing off questions and calling the Pentagon review kabuki theater. That word mattered. It really did. It signaled arrogance. It signaled confidence. It signaled someone who basically believed that the system was going to protect him. And for a while, that confidence looked justified. The media played along, and the story faded in and out of the news cycles. Well, Kelly smiled, shrugged, and just kept on moving. Then the Pentagon escalated. That's when the tone changed. Suddenly, Kelly wasn't laughing anymore. The language tightened. The answers got vague. The body language shifted, because once a review turns into a formal command investigation, this stops being political and it starts being about process. And process doesn't give a flip about how powerful you are or how many cameras are pointed in your direction. This was the moment that Kelly realized he no longer controlled the pace, the framing, or the outcome. The military had taken the wheel away from him, and Kelly was no longer in the driver's seat. And then everything traces back to one video. The moment Kelly crossed the line that he clearly didn't think existed. Standing alongside 5 other Democrats, Kelly urged service members to defy what he vaguely labeled illegal orders. No specifics, no citations, no examples, just a sweeping call that landed directly on active duty troops watching at home. That's the problem. You ain't gonna get away with that now. You see, guys, in the military, words are not abstract, they're operational. So when a retired Navy captain uses his rank and credibility to question the chain of command, this isn't commentary, it's influence. And influence carries all sorts of responsibility. This wasn't a policy disagreement. This wasn't theoretical debate. This was a public challenge to military obedience, broadcast for maximum political impact. Now, that video wasn't bold, it wasn't brave, it was reckless. And once it went viral, it triggered something Kelly didn't anticipate: scrutiny from the very institutions that he thought he was insulated from. This was the original sin. The moment that everything followed became inevitable. Now, here is where people get this wrong. And I'd say like 94% of people are getting this wrong. This is where Mark Kelly clearly got it wrong too. A preliminary review is political space. It's vague, it's flexible, it's where stories die quietly if the pressure fades. A full command investigation is none of that. This is where the military's fact-finding machine switches on. Once that happens, the questions stop being rhetorical. Investigators aren't asking what sounded good on cable news. They're asking who said what, to whom, in what capacity, and with what effect. Statements are pulled, videos are logged, intent matters, rank matters, audience matters, and the motive matters. And most importantly, this process is governed by military law. This is you getting the MPs involved, guys. This ain't public opinion. This is why this escalation hit Kelly so hard. He understood instantly that this wasn't about optics anymore. This was about evidence, and evidence was a way of stripping away talking points real fast. The panic you're seeing right now, this is the realization that the track doesn't reverse easily, and it doesn't end with a press release. And so what's happening to Mark Kelly right now is a reminder of something bigger, much bigger. In fact, systems change quietly until they don't. I heard from a woman recently who ignored the annual Medicare letter that came in the mail. You know the one, the pages of fine print, tiny font, legal language, very hard to understand and easy to toss aside and forget about. Kind of like, you just kind of shovel it under the stack of mail that you've been meaning to open for months. Yeah, that. So she assumed everything was fine, but it wasn't. Her Medicare plan quietly changed and dropped her specialist. This was the doctor, the very doctor that she relied on, and she didn't find out until it was too late. This is how these systems work. They don't knock, they don't warn you twice, they just move forward. This is why I partner with Chapter. Chapter reads those Medicare changes for you. They flag what's changing, what's risky, and they help update your coverage so that you're not blindsided when it matters most. And here's the key part. It doesn't cost you a dime. Most people are already calling the phone number down below, 909-563-8279, or they're visiting the website down below, askchapter.org/Ron. Just click the link to make sure that you're actually protected before the system shifts under you. Because whether it's Medicare or the Pentagon, the worst time to find out that you missed something is after the process has already started. This is the blind spot that may cost Kelly everything. He thought retirement meant immunity, but it doesn't. Kelly isn't a senator. He's a retired Navy captain drawing a pension. That distinction matters more than the media wants to admit it, because when you keep the benefits, you keep the obligations. Retired officers remain subject to military discipline for actions tied to their status, their influence, and conduct. That's not controversial. That's settled. That's when Kelly spoke. He didn't speak as just another politician. He spoke as another commanding officer that was leveraging decades of service to give weight to his words. This is the trap he walked right into. He blurred the line between civilian politics and military authority, and the military noticed it. They caught him. This is why the Pentagon didn't shrug this off. Kelly didn't age out of accountability. He carried it with him. And the moment he used his military credibility to challenge discipline, he stepped right back under the rules that he thought he had left behind. This is where Kelly's entire defense collapses. He kept saying that the Constitution requires service members to disobey illegal orders. Sounds righteous, sounds patriotic, but it's also wrong. Military law doesn't work that way. Troops are not free agents deciding legality based on politics or personal belief. The standard is far narrower: manifestly unlawful orders, period. This means orders so clearly illegal that everyone recognized them as such. There's no debate, there's no ambiguity. And so Kelly deliberately blurred that line. He swapped the precise legal standard for a vague moral claim. And that matters, because once there's disagreement, once lawyers and commanders or courts could plausibly differ, the order is no longer manifestly unlawful. At that point, obedience is required. But leaving out that one word, Kelly didn't just oversimplify, he misled. And when a retired officer misrepresents the law to active duty troops, that's not protected speech. That's destabilization. This is the moment that his argument stopped being persuasive and it started being dangerous. Now, here's the reality Kelly is now crashing into. The military justice system is indifferent to status. It doesn't care about elections or polling or donors or headlines. Once a command investigation starts, the process moves forward on rails. Evidence is gathered, statements are compared, motive and impact are assessed, and none of that bends to political pressure. That's why the media sympathy tour is just not working. This is why the "this is about us" line, it falls flat. The Pentagon isn't interested in collective narratives. It's interested in whether an officer, active or retired, undermined discipline and good order. That's it. Kelly thought that his Senate seat insulated him. It doesn't. In fact, it may have actually made things worse, because influence amplifies responsibility. This is the moment where power stops protecting you and it starts attracting scrutiny. And once that happens, there's no spinning your way out of this thing. Now, the moment that Pete Hegseth enters the frame, this stops being theoretical. Hegseth understands military culture, military law, and military consequences. And that's exactly why his office escalating this probe matters so much. Kelly's defenders tried to muddy the waters by pointing to comments that Hegseth made years ago as a civilian discussing hypothetical war crimes. That comparison collapses instantly under scrutiny. Hegseth spoke about rank without command authority and without addressing troops. Kelly did the exact opposite. He spoke as a retired officer, invoking credibility built over decades, directly addressing active duty service members while questioning obedience. Different role, different standard, different consequences. This escalation signaled something unmistakable. The Pentagon is not treating this as political noise. They're treating this as a discipline issue. And when the Secretary of Defense allows that process to move forward, it tells everyone inside the system that this isn't being slow walked, it's not being buried or even brushed aside. The stakes just went vertical. Then came the moment that locked everything in. President Donald J. Trump weighed in publicly, and he didn't hedge. He cited Title 18, Section 2387. That's right, guys. Section 2387 is the statute that's covering interference with military loyalty, morale, and discipline. This wasn't rhetoric. This was a signal, a very clear one. When the commander-in-chief references the law and says, do what must be done, the Pentagon doesn't have the luxury of pretending this is optional. President Trump wasn't calling for a press conference. He was calling for accountability. And that matters because the military answers upward, not sideways. Now, from that moment on, this stopped being a media cycle and it became a chain of command issue. The gloves came off, not publicly, but procedurally, and Kelly knew it. You could see it in the sudden defensiveness, the shift to victim language, the scramble to reframe intent. That was the green light that made retreat impossible. And so once the escalation became undeniable, the cracks turned into fractures. Mark Kelly stepped in front of the cameras, and instead of clarity, he spiraled. The message wasn't tight anymore. The confidence was gone. What replaced it was grievance. He framed himself as a victim of intimidation, claiming that the Pentagon was sending a warning to anyone who dared speak out. Then the line that he repeated over and over and over, "This isn't about me, it's all about us." That was the telltale sign, guys. Because when someone insists it's not about them, it usually is. Kelly wasn't defending military members. He was defending himself. Don't fall for that. He wasn't explaining the law. He was reframing motive. The problem is the military doesn't adjudicate feelings. It adjudicates conduct. His press conference wasn't persuasive because it wasn't responsive. It didn't address the video. It didn't address the misstatement of law. It didn't address the status as a retired officer. It was pure deflection, and everyone watching could feel it. And that meltdown didn't calm the situation at all. In fact, it poured fuel on it. Conservative lawmakers, veterans, and commentators, they responded immediately, and the tone shifted fast. This wasn't framed as free speech anymore. This was framed as discipline, as order, as accountability, long overdue after years of politicizing the military. I mean, you started hearing the same words repeated. Sedition, undermining command, dangerous precedent. Calls for consequences weren't coming from fringe voices. They were coming from people who understand how fragile military obedience actually is. The argument was simple. If politicians can publicly encourage defiance without consequence, discipline collapses. That's it. This is where momentum flipped. The story stopped being about whether Kelly meant well, and it became more about whether the Pentagon was finally willing to draw a line. And once that line appeared, the pressure didn't ease, it intensified, because now backing down would send a message the military cannot afford to send. And so here's the motive that ties all of this together. Kelly wasn't improvising, he was positioning. So after watching other Democrats juice their numbers by confronting the White House, he tried the same play, leveraging his military resume as political armor. The idea was simple. Wrap confrontation in patriotism, look courageous, and ride the attention into the next cycle. But that strategy carries a hidden risk when you're a retired officer. You don't get to cosplay rebellion with a rank you once held. Now, that miscalculation was brutal. He assumed that the military would stay hands-off. He assumed the optics would scare off accountability, but instead, the optics invited it. By invoking service to justify defiance, he turned a classic. By invoking service to justify defiance, he turned a campaign tactic into a jurisdictional problem. I mean, ambition led to exposure. Exposure triggered process, and process just doesn't care what year you're running for. And the irony is sharp. The move meant to project strength is one that ultimately exposed vulnerability, and it happened in full view of the institution he once served. So this is why the story doesn't end with Mark Kelly. The Pentagon isn't just investigating one senator. It's redrawing a boundary that was blurred for years. Politics stops at the chain of command, period. The escalation sends a message to every former officer, every politician with a uniform in their past, and every activist tempted to pull the military into partisan fights. There are lines you just don't cross. That message matters now. Discipline isn't a talking point. It is the backbone of national security. So when obedience becomes optional, cohesion collapses. And so by letting this process move forward, the military is signaling that influence just doesn't excuse misconduct and rank doesn't become a prop after retirement. Consequences still apply. And here's a tension that really lingers. If this door stays open, it won't close with one case. Standards reset once. Precedents travel. And for anyone who thought the uniform could be used as a shield for politics, that assumption just expired. That's the story, folks. Like it or not, subscribe. I'm going to see you next time.